Nice, shalom, shalom. I'm going to start off this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops, a great millstone that rule well, that teach well, while I learn this truth 100% according to the Bible. I also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophet servants, scattered abroad the four corners of the earth, and shalom to you, Akwaf, which are you sisters that are sincere in your children. Shalom. And then today's video is going to be another video from the brother, the Hopeful Elect 3, building off of the video in which it is he uploaded, where you basically got this Jake talking about, that a civil war is imminent and that it's coming soon. And this is the thing that the men of the Lord have ultimately been warning you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians about, here in America that, chaos like never before is ultimately going to come upon this place, man. And everybody can feel it, man. They can sense it. They know it. They just don't know ultimately the time or the day. But a lot of these people are, coming to the conclusion that this place, America, is not going to be safe too much longer, man. That, ultimately this place is, a ticking time bomb that just ultimately waiting to go off, man. And we know, as it tells you in St. Matthew, right? Chapter 24, verse 12. In the KJV, and it says, and because iniquity shall abound, right? Meaning sin upon sin, the love of many shall wax cold. And when you go into that word cold in the Greek, it means psycho. So it means a lot of people here in these times here in America are losing their minds, man, due to this sin, the iniquity, all of the wickedness that's ultimately taking place in this country. It got people mentally gone, man. These people are unhinged, man. And we know that these people in this society are ultimately just filled with all type of demons. And, this stuff is going to happen, man. We're going to have race wars, class wars, civil wars, all of these things ultimately taking place. These are all part of the prophecies, man. And I'm going to actually go to that, right? Because it tells us that in St. Matthew 24:7, Lord Yahweh Shai gave us that, and, when he was speaking to the disciples, which later on became apostles, minus in Judas Iscariot. But he was telling them like the signs of the times in which will be taking place before he ultimately makes his second return. Right. And it says, for nation shall rise against nation. Right. And that's what's going to happen, man, in the very near future here in America. You're going to have civil wars. You're going to have people fighting against each other. You're going to have these different types of things ultimately taking place, man. Those are all part of the signs of the times, and these are going to be all of the, tools of judgment that the Lord is ultimately going to bring upon this place, America, to ultimately to take it down, man. Because as it tells you in, I'm going to get that, St. Matthew, chapter, I believe it's chapter 12. And I'm going to go to verse 25, but I'm gonna read it in the NLT, right? And it says, Yahweh Shai knew their thoughts and replied, any kingdom, right, which is this place America, which is being ran currently by the Edomites, right? This is their kingdom. This is their so-called heaven, right? And it says, divided by civil war is doomed, right? A town or family splintered by feuding will fall apart, right? And we know that's ultimately talking about, these Edomites, but that also can refer to this place, America. Everything in this place is ultimately divided. That's how we know that these civil wars and things of that nature are going to take place in the near future. All of these people in this country, they despise one another. Everybody in this country is proud, full of hate. Everybody is against one another. And we know ultimately that's the spirit that the Lord have put upon these people in these times, man. Ultimately, those that are not of his elect, as it tells you in St. Matthew 10:34, and I'm going to go to that, right? And I'm going to start at verse 34, right? It said, think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. And when you look into that sword, it goes into division, people being at odds with one another, people not ultimately being on good terms and things of that nature. So that's already the mindset of majority of these Americans. And once these ultimately these conflicts begin to, start happening in this place, the Lord is going to allow these people to ultimately rise up against one another, man. Those are the times and seasons in which it is that is coming to this place, America, man. It's going to be chaos like never before ultimately happening in this place, man. And I'm going to allow the video to play. All right. And I'm going to say fair use under the 1976 Copyright Act. I'm not getting paid for this video. This is ultimately only for educational purposes only. Fair use.
If you to the left, you could be to the right, you could be up, you could be down. I don't give a fuck what you support. We all need to have a healthy, fair living in the United States of America. Seriously. Put your political propaganda to the side for a second and understand that we on shaky fucking grounds. Like, I've never been one to own weapons or to have them, but thank God I live in a state where you only need a license to conceal your weapon. Cause shit, I hope not, but it feels like we on the brink of a civil fucking war, man. And people better start thinking about how they can protect themselves and protect their families, because every 24 hours is some new crazy shit, and we really don't know what's about to happen.
Right. And you heard what it is that Jake has said, and that's exactly what's coming, man. Civil war, complete, utter chaos in this place, America, man. Sedition among men. All of these different things are a part of the prophecies, and they're going to happen in these latter days, man. And I'm actually go to a precept just touching on that, right? This is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2. In the KJV, and it says, and I, right, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, right, will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, talking about you people here in America, man. You so-called Edomites, all of you different other, 2/3 of our nation that are ultimately in that heathen mentality, drunken off of the wine of this Babylon juice. All of you people are going to get caught up in these race wars, these class wars, and these civil wars, man. Anybody that's not of the Lord's elect is really going to get caught up in all of these evils, man. And we know ultimately even the Lord's elect can get caught up in these situations, but the Lord is going to defend them. He's going to protect them. Everybody else is going to be fair game for them, man. They're going to get caught up and ultimately be taken by these, scenarios that are going to occur, right? And it says, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, right? And everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And that's what's coming, man. Those race wars, man, those times like never before that are going to be coming here to this place, America, real soon, man. Violence like never before is coming to this place, man. Evils like never before, right? As it tells you in the book of that second Esdras 14 and 16, it says, for yet greater evils, right, meaning bad times, than those which thou hast seen done shall be done hereafter, man. So those evils, right, are coming to this place, America, man. And these all are going to be part of the plagues that the Lord is ultimately going to bring, and I'm actually go to that as well. Right. This is second Esdras chapter 13. And I'm going to start at verse 29. Right. And it says, behold, the day is come when the Most High, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth, right? And that's talking about his elect, the only ones he's going to ultimately have mercy upon when these things do begin to take place, right? Verse 30, and he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth, right? And this is the point right here, verse 31. It said, and one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, right? That's talking about race wars. And one realm against another. And mind you, they've been coming out with a lot of movies in the past few years touching on, complete civil war and utter chaos and anarchy happening here in the streets of America. Just look at all of those different purge movies and things of that nature that they have brought out throughout the years, man. People believe that they're just doing those things just to make them movies about them. But no, they're doing them things because they know ultimately that in the near future that these are going to be real scenarios that are going to ultimately be taking place. And they're predictive programming you people via these movies for what's to come, man. Right. So I'm going to go to that. Right. This is second Esdras chapter 15. Right. And I'm going to go straight to the point. Right. I'm going to go to verse 5. It said, behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, right? The sword, right? Which represents those race wars and those class wars, man. People ultimately being divided and fighting against each other, right? Famine, death, and destruction, right? And this is the reason why, verse 6, for wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Therefore saith the Lord, right? This is verse 8. I will hold my tongue, right? No more is touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and the righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually, right? And those are the elect, man. Those brothers and sisters that are ultimately sighing and crying for the abominations that are being done in the midst thereof. And I'm actually go to that right through the Spirit in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 9, verse 3. And I'm going to read on down, right? But These are going to be the only ones that the Lord is ultimately going to have pity upon, his remnant, the elect, man, and everybody else that is not of that number of the 2/3 of our people in these other nations. They're going to get caught up in all of these different events that are coming, man. The race wars, the famine, all of these different types of plagues and judgments that the Lord is about to bring forth. They're going to get caught right in the middle of it, man. Right. And it says, and the glory of the power of Israel was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side, right? This is verse 4. And it said, and the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, said unto him, go through the midst of the city, right? Through the midst of Jerusalem, right? Which is a people before as a place, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, and set a mark, right? Which when you go into that word mark in the Hebrew, it means thoah, which means to be exempt from the judgment, to be exempt from these said evils that the Lord is going to bring, right? It said upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof, right? And that's only talking about the Lord's elect, who he's going to spare from all of these disasters that are coming, right? This is Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 5. And to the others, he said in mine hearing, right? And this is the Lord giving the command to these death angels, man, to ultimately to get busy upon people, man, right? It said, go ye after him through the city and smite, meaning to delete, to kill. Let not your eye spare, neither have ye pity, right? This is verse 6. And it says, slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man, right, upon whom is the mark, right? And began at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men, which were before the house, right? So, yeah, we know that these times are coming real soon, man, where you're going to have complete and utter chaos happening out here in these streets of America, Babylon the Great, man. And that's what the men of the Lord, starting with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, have ultimately been warning you Israelites that these things are going to come in the very near future, man. And everybody is feeling it, man, because they know it's coming. They just don't know ultimately when, the day or the hour, but they ultimately know that, hey, something doesn't feel right about this place, America, that, this place is, like I said, it's a stack of cards that's about to fall, man. This whole system, the minds of these people, everything over here is ultimately getting worse and worse. Being able to pay their bills, not being able to support their families and all of these different things. This economy is crashing before these people's eyes. So, I mean, a lot of these people in here, they have nothing to lose, man. And that's why it's going to be so much chaos taking place when these things do begin to occur, right? Because of people just not knowing what to do. People ultimately losing it and bugging out, man, right? So this is 2nd Esdras chapter 15, and I'm going to go straight to the point. Verse 14, it said, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, right? Woe meaning destruction, man, right? And it said, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, which is coming very soon, man. And one people, right, shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, right? And I'm going to go straight down to the point, right? Verse 18, this is the reason why ultimately the Lord is going to bring all of these different types of judgments upon these people, right? It said, for because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. So that's ultimately why we see the Lord getting ready to bring forth all of these different evils, man, why he's about to bring the race wars, the class wars, all of these other different types of, things he's going to use to bring forth his judgment, because of the pride and the arrogancy and the wickedness of these people here in America, man, mainly amongst you Israelites, but also these other damn heathen nations as well. The Lord is going to punish all of these people over here, anybody that's not ultimately of his elect, and I'm actually, go to a precept on that too, right? This is 2nd Esdras chapter 8, verse 50. And it says, for many great miseries, right, shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, right, because they have walked in great pride, right? And we're going to look up that word miseries, right? And it means a state or feeling of great distress or discomfort of both mind and body. And that's what these people are going to be, in a state of distress, man, when all of these things begin to ultimately take place, right? They're not going to know what to do, man. That's why it tells us in this scripture right here what's going to keep the Lord's elect stable, man, right? And this is what a lot of our people lack. They don't have this, so they're going to be bugging out in these times. They're not going to know what to do. That's why you hear Jake in the video talking about ultimately arming up, buying guns and all of that different type of stuff. That's not going to save you, man, if you're not ultimately of the Lord's elect, man. You can buy guns, you can store up food, you can do all of that. But if you're not of the elect, you're going to die, man, in these evils that are about to come forth, man. So this is Isaiah 33:6. It said, and wisdom and knowledge, right, of the Bible shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. So the only way you're ultimately going to be protected in this time, right, or be somewhat level-headed or calm, is that you're going to have the 100% truth according to the Bible, man, to be your God, to keep you stable, to have these words within you, man. And the only people that are going to have that is the Lord's elect, man. Everybody else is not going to have that. They're going to be completely clueless about what to do in these times, man. And that's why these evils are going to overtake these people, man. Right? People are going to bug out. People are going to lose their mind. People are not going to know what to do, and things like that, man. This is what's ultimately coming, But yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Just a quick video through the Spirit. Lord's willing to be edifying. To the next time, I'm going to say shalom to the elect.